All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to talk about a really powerful strategic tool called PESTLE analysis. We're going to break down how it can help you take all the chaos of the outside world and turn it into some real strategic clarity. So, let's get right to it.
So let's kick things off with a quick question for you. Think about three huge, game-changing things happening right now: artificial intelligence, shifting global trade tariffs, and new climate policies. What on earth do they all have in common?
Well, the answer is, they're all massive forces that are completely outside of your control, right? But here's the thing. While you can't control them, you can absolutely prepare for them. And that shift in thinking is the key.
Look, we're all trying to operate in a world that feels, well, pretty complex, right? You got geopolitical tensions, costs are all over the place, new regulations popping up constantly. In this kind of environment, understanding the world around you isn't just a nice to have, it's totally non-negotiable if you want to survive, let alone succeed.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. Take a look at these. These are real-world predictions for 2026. We're talking about a whole new global trade order because of tariffs. We're asking if AI is going to be a shock absorber or if it's just going to make things even crazier. And then there's the huge influence of government spending. These are the exact kinds of huge, messy forces we need a system to make sense of.
So that really begs the question, right? How in the world do you even begin to make sense of all this chaos? And more importantly, how do you turn it into a real strategic advantage for your organization?
Well, that's where the PESTLE framework comes in. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like putting on a special pair of glasses. It's a lens that helps you organize all that chaos and see the bigger picture with way more clarity.
So, what is it really? PESTLE is basically a strategic framework that helps you examine the world by breaking it down into 6 key areas: political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. It's just a really smart, systematic way to scan the horizon.
And this visual here, it shows it perfectly. See your organization right there in the middle? It's being pushed and pulled by all 6 of these big external factors. That's the whole idea in a nutshell. So let's do a quick rundown of what each of these letters actually stands for.
First up, P. That's for a political. This is all about government stability, tax policies, trade rules, the kind of stuff where a new tariff could pop up overnight and completely change your supply chain costs.
Then you've got E for economic. We're talking about the big picture stuff here: interest rates, inflation, economic growth. These things have a direct line to your customer's wallet and, maybe more importantly, how confident they feel about spending their money. Next is S for social. This is about people. What are the big demographic shifts? What are the cultural attitudes? How are lifestyles changing? Think about the huge demand for sustainable products. That's a social shift that completely changes what the market wants.
T is for technological. This one's a biggie right now. It's about automation, innovation, how fast new stuff is being discovered. And as we're all seeing with AI, a technological leap can literally redefine an entire industry practically overnight.
All right, L is for legal. This is about the specific rules of the game you have to play by. Think about data protection laws like GDPR. Those have had a massive, massive impact on how pretty much every company has to handle customer information.
And finally, we have another E, this time for environmental. This covers things like climate change, the push for sustainability, and pollution regulations. These are factors that don't just affect how you operate, but they're also a huge part of a company's reputation and social responsibility these days.
And what's really cool is that this framework isn't some ancient, dusty thing. It's actually evolved. It started back in the 60s as just PEST. But our world got more complicated, right? So legal and environmental factors were added to keep up. It shows how the tool itself adapts to the times.
Okay, so that's the what. Now for the fun part. Let's talk about the how. How do you actually do one of these analyses?
It really breaks down into 4 main phases. First, you do your homework. You scan the environment and just gather all the data you can for all 6 categories. Second, you start to assess the impact. How could this actually affect us? Third, and this is the most important part, you develop a strategy to respond to what you found. And fourth, you can't just set it and forget it. You have to keep monitoring and reviewing because, well, the world doesn't stop changing.
So what's the end game here? What's the real strategic payoff? It's all about taking that analysis, that outward look, and turning it into real action that gives you an edge. But, no tool is a magic wand. On the plus side, it's amazing. You get a really complete picture. You can get ahead of risks, find new opportunities you might have missed, and make sure your whole team is pulling in the same direction.
But let's be real, the limitations are there. It can take a lot of time and resources. Your interpretation might be biased, and if you don't update it, it can get outdated super fast.
And I want to be clear, this isn't just some textbook exercise. Big-time companies are using this thinking every single day, and now they're even supercharging it with AI. You've got Google using it to track regulatory changes as they happen, Walmart is analyzing social trends to see what people want, and a company like Shell is constantly monitoring new tech in the energy world to stay ahead.
So here's a really key point. You have to understand where PESTLE fits in your big picture strategy. It's not something you do in a vacuum. It's a foundational piece of a much larger puzzle.
And this slide nails its most important job. The insights you get from your PESTLE analysis, they feed directly into another tool you probably know, the SWOT analysis. PESTLE is how you systematically figure out the O and the T, the external opportunities and threats that you're facing.
I love this quote from Dr. Monica Masucci. It just sums it all up, doesn't it? Being alert to external changes is vital to remain competitive and navigate with more ease in turbulent times. That's it. That's the whole game right there.
So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final question to chew on. Based on everything we've just talked about, what's that one critical external factor, political, economic, social, whatever it is, that you might be overlooking right now?